So Canon have released their Firmware 1.8.1 update for the Canon R5. I was so excited about this because, according to the new specs, this was going to create it was going to allow the images to move from 45 megapixels, which is already pretty good, up to 400 megapixels. And it's mucking around with the internal image stabilization of the camera. So the inbuilt image stabilization, IBIS, is basically what it does is when you take the photo, it sort of moves the sensor fractionally 9 times. And so you end up with 9 photos for the price of 1, and then fancily stitches them all together. And so you end up with an insanely big 400 megabyte image. And I just thought, wow, this is going to be so much fun. So I spent the afternoon trying to figure out how to get my firmware update. My camera's fairly new, rigging up the Canon software to my phone so I could transfer it to the camera. Did all that. And I've taken a couple of quick test photos, and I have to say I am deeply, deeply disappointed. So what I've got up here, so you can see I've just very quickly done a photo of my penknife. Now this here is, to show you side by side, this is one taken using the new super fancy 400 megapixel. This here is a standard 45 megapixel JPEG. Now the other thing to understand is that this firmware update might allow you a 400 megapixel, but it's JPEG only. You don't get the RAW file with that, so there's a limitation. So I thought best to actually just show you side by side exactly what the difference is. So this then standard, so if I've got this set at f4.5 80th of a second ISO 500. So it's focused basically on the little fish on the Swiss Army penknife here. And if I zoom in to full, this is what we get. So fair enough, that kind of is what we do. So what happens then if I zoom in similarly with the 400 megapixel version? So we zoom in, and when we get to about here, we're roughly, okay, maybe zoom in a little bit more. We're kind of at about the same level here. This is at 33% as opposed to 100%. But if we zoom in more, this is fine, we go in. What happens when we get to 100%? It's looking really dodgy. There's all these artifacts. There's this sort of, where it's sort of, I presume where it's been stitching together all these images, we end up with all these kind of funny little lines. And it's not doing it. This isn't what I was expecting for my 400 megapixels. So if I go back to here and I actually just zoom in the same amount, I mean, it's not that different, to be honest. I mean, let's go to this and let's go to the image size. So the image size was 24,000 pixels across. So let's just copy that. And what we'll do is let's make this JPEG the same size. So if I just straightforwardly in Photoshop, just make that the same size, 24,000 megapixels, go back to 100%, and let's pull this out, move in on the fish head here, so that it's basically the same here. And how much better is this? Not massively, to be honest. Okay, it's a little bit sharper, but I've not done anything. I've not done anything to sharpen. If I just duplicate that layer and then go to something straightforward as filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And I take that and, I muck around a bit, maybe take that up to, 120 or something like that, radius 4.5, and I click OK. And I don't see, and I mean, this isn't even talking about AI sharpen, which would make a much, much better job. This is just straightforwardly blow it up and sharpen it in Photoshop. And actually, I don't think this is giving me much better with all this kind of extra lines and stitching. It's not detail. It's not the detail that I'm expecting from a 400 megapixel picture. All it's done is the equivalent of take a 45 megapixel picture and blow it up. I'm so disappointed. What I'm desperately hoping for is that I've made some kind of mistake. My first handheld shots that I attempted were horrifically blurry, and I thought, well, okay, it's taking 9 photos, my hand wobble, that's gonna make it blurry. So I put this on a tripod, and the first ones really weren't very good either. So okay, pressing the shutter has wobbled the camera. So I put the camera on a 2-second timer so that the pressing the button wouldn't create the camera wobble. And this is the best I've got. Really? Is that the best Canon? I can't believe it. I can't believe that, given the fact that the reputation of Canon and how much scrutiny it's going to be under for this 400 megapixel mind-blowing firmware update, it's not delivering it. I hope that I've done something wrong. I hope that I'm missing something. I hope if you know the answer to this, please leave a comment. Leave a comment. Tell me what other menu item I'm supposed to have pressed first, or what other setup I ought to have in order to get what I would consider a proper 400 megapixel picture, something that was going to give me 100% sharpness, you know, right through to... Anyway, so if you know, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, what on earth was the point of all this?